morning, everyone. Okay, I think you can do better than that. Good morning. That's more like it because we have joyful things to celebrate. So we should use that in our voices as well. So thank you so much. I want to thank the congregation and the council for recognizing the work of the call team. We were blessed as a team in the relationships we forged, in the prayer time we had together, and in the fruition of our work with our call to Pastor Wendy Moen. So we are very delighted in the work we were able to do, and we appreciate your recognition of that work. I'm going to take a few minutes this morning to go over this summary, but we do have the summary. Mark Herbst is wandering around with it. There are more details in this, but my purpose here today is to really give you an overview of what we found when we collected feedback from the congregation. So I'm just going to go over, if you would go back one slide, I'm going to tell you why we did what we did, how we did it, and then the results. And then I want to know from you, is there anything else we need to know? So now we can go ahead to purpose. So our purpose in doing this, so you might think, well, the call team's work is done because, hello, we have Pastor Wendy here. But part of our work was to gather feedback from the congregation, and all of that goes into a report that goes to the ELCA in the form of a ministry site profile. Now, our process was a little different at Covenant. Normally, that ministry site profile, all the information is gathered, information about demographics, goals, vision, attributes sought in a candidate. All of that is done ahead of looking at candidates. But our process was different. We had a wonderful candidate right in front of us, and so we did kind of a parallel process of interviewing Pastor Wendy alongside gathering feedback from teams and the congregation. So we still need to let you know, though, what this feedback lifted up for all of us. We feel that all this input helps us begin a new chapter together as congregation and pastor. So this is not, I want to emphasize this point, this is not information that is helpful for Pastor Wendy alone. This is helpful for all of us as partners in ministry together. So let me tell you a little bit about the process. You can go ahead. So the big picture is that we did two main activities. We did interviews with small groups and teams around the congregation, and we talked about past issues, possible solutions, current attributes of the congregation, and trends in the community, as well as hopes and dreams for Covenant's future. And then you might remember over the summer, we had a timeline along that wall where you were invited to place notes on our past, what you would say about us in the present, and what you hope for in the future. So those were our two main ways that we gathered information from you. There's more information here in the report, but that gives you a general sense of what's happening. Okay, so what did we find out? Let's go on. Oh, in the small group interviews, we offered, one of our call team members met with each team at the congregation, including council, the staff, groups like the blanket makers, all the different committee members and teams. We also offered some additional ways to get feedback. We offered a Zoom call for folks who might not be able to make it to one of those team events. We had an in-person session after worship, and then we sent out a letter to members who may not be attending worship and may not have a chance to respond by email, and so they were able to call into the office and give their comments. So that's one way that we gathered information. We asked some specific questions, and these were guided, we were guided by our handbook that we received from our synod office. So let me just read some of those for you. So in each of the small groups, the call team member facilitated the discussion, and this discussion was held consistently across groups. Please describe the most significant conflicts in the congregation in the last 20 years and what we as a congregation have learned from that. What trends in the community should be addressed in the next 5 years? Where is God leading our congregation in the future? During the next 1 to 3 years, what are some mission priorities? And imagine if you were describing covenant to a visitor. So we termed this the elevator speech. So if you just had a couple minutes to tell someone about covenant, what would you say? So as a result of these congregational feedback, we noticed some themes that were lifted up consistently. And this is what I really want to share with you. Oh, the Timeline Project. So the Timeline Project, thanks to the work of Ingrid Thompson and Judy Heil, along with Jocelyn Edwards, we were able to get a scope of Covenant's history throughout the summer. Past, present, and future is what that was about. Okay, we can go on. So themes and ideas. The first thing I want to tell you is that there is positive energy and excitement in the congregation. Our new chapter with Pastor Wendy, members feel we have a very welcoming environment. The beautiful grounds and building is mentioned, and members really want to continue this sense of welcome by also accepting and encouraging the difference of others. We have a strong support for both youth and family ministry and senior ministry. These are the themes that came up most often. Interest in continuing our active participation in the Stoughton community. Members notice that we not only give of our funds, but we give of our time, and we give donation of supplies, clothing, food into the community. And members really want to continue that. Now, this is not to say that giving to the national and global community is not important to members, but members have brought up the local contribution most often when we interviewed them. And so I think that is a really positive attribute of our congregation. Now, we do have challenges. A common area of challenge that was mentioned was a lack of transparency regarding pastor and staff departures. Members understand that there is a need for confidentiality, but they long for better communication around a departure. And where we could, as a call team, we made recommended solutions. So one of the things we recommended is that perhaps we have a policy is created regarding the communication around a departure. Another possible solution is that leadership is willing to meet with small groups as needed after a departure. Another challenge we have is a lack of consistent communications regarding decisions by committees, church council, and the pastor. So there has been communication, but it is not consistent across the board. The words timely and clear information came up a few times. We recognize that we have a variety of audiences at Covenant right now. We're not all in person. We're not all online. We're across varying degrees of medium here. So we recommend quarterly in-person meetings from leadership and council. We've had that in the past, and members have really liked that. We've also suggested that perhaps an ad hoc committee is created to address communication issues. You know, every organization goes through a refresh on how they communicate their messages, and perhaps we need that as well. Another challenge is decreased participation in volunteer tasks. This bullet and the next bullet point both were mentioned by congregation members as preceding the impact of the pandemic. So things like membership decline, the pandemic, schedules are all influences. New and additional volunteers are needed. One possible solution to this might be to conduct an analysis of trends of declining participation and see what we could do about that. What other organizations, other congregations have gone through this as well. What might be ways that we can learn from them about how to increase our participation. And that we take it upon ourselves as members of committees to actively invite and others to join us in our work. Informal gatherings have declined. Similar reasons as the participation. as decreased participation. Members describe longing for time together. And I put that word in quotes because that appeared in the comments directly. Recommended solutions are continue the outreach activities that interest covenant and community. So, for example, our pet blessing that we have done, and encourage new ways to gather. There may be new things that we haven't tried, and I have seen throughout the fall many new activities that members have put up. And then on the towards the end of the report, we have all the hopes and dreams listed. So. Donna Tarpinian challenged me to come up with a word, a word art of all those words, and so I attempted that from all the comments that you have made. And so you'll notice the largest word of all of our hopes and dreams right in the middle is covenant. And then you'll see other words standing out, community and congregation. And so those two words came up often in comments. So when we say community, do we mean the community here, or do we mean the community outside the congregation? And then we also talk about the congregation. So it will be interesting going forward to explore that together. I also left some of the verbs in there that people stated. So you'll see the biggest verb that's standing out is use. Members are interested in using our facility, using our gifts for the good of the congregation and our community around us. So what we will do as a call team is we will forward these ideas of hopes and dreams to all the committees. We invite you to look them over and take a look to see, is there something on there that we can do as a committee to move this idea forward? It's not meant to be do that right now, but over the next year or so, how might we move forward towards this dream that the congregation had? And then in conclusion, there we go. So I describe this as a both and. We have challenges and we have optimism for our future. And I would remind everyone that not every congregation sits in that space. We are fortunate to have a sense of hope for our future. And the challenges are ones that we can work together to address, I believe. We were able to have open conversation and healthy discussion of conflict. Now, there was a time that I remember that might have not been true in the congregation. So every group that we asked about conflict was able to talk about it, and in a way that was healthy and open. So I think that's also a mark of a healthy congregation. So that's good news, I think. So I invite you, along with our call team and all of our leadership, to consider the ways that we can strengthen our ministry together and the bonds we share in our congregational community. And then finally, I would ask you, what else? Is there anything that I went over that you have questions about or that you think is missing? If you think about covenant and what you'd want people to know, is there anything missing from our summary?
Feel free to speak up. I'll bring the microphone if anyone has any thoughts.
I don't know if this is in all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments, but I wanted to say it, and with Dave and Ann sitting right in front of me, I thought, well, this is an opportune time to say it. But one of my favorite fun things, and one that involved lots and lots of people, was a meal that I worked with Dave and Ann, and there were probably 100 people working under your leadership. It was really something. How many years ago do you suppose, Ann?
We were trying to bring down the mortgage, and we really did have a good time. We had so many committees. We really got to know members of our congregation. I have to truly say it was fun.
It was. And many, many people worked on it. It-
Do it again, but we are looking for other people.
That's what I wanted to say. Was that in there, did anybody mention?
It's probably in the detailed comments somewhere. So just a little background work. When we met with small groups, we did that under the sense of confidentiality, that teams could talk to us about all sorts of topics without individual comments being revealed to the congregation. So I'm sure it's in there. There were many comments about people missing gathering together. And that would be what you mentioned, Penny, would be reflective of that. I presented this at council the other night, and one of the other comments that we talked about was in the area of past conflicts, that spread the gamut of years. So there was no one sore spot that comments focused around. So that's why we say as a theme that the communication about departures is important, because there were different members had different memories of events over time that they felt could have been handled a little bit better or just known a little bit more about if it was possible. So any other information I can give you or anything else I can add? Well, I want to thank you for your time this morning, and we'll keep you posted. This is basically the end of our work as a call team. We'll submit this report to the Synod and any other information that they need, and that will be the end of our work as a call team. We thank all of you for your participation in the call process, and we look forward to our ministry together along with Pastor Wendy. Thank you.
And once again, we thank the call team. Thank you, call team.
Before everyone leaves, I just want to challenge you to stop by the sign up for the waffle breakfast next Sunday, and please sign up for something to bring to put on top of the waffles that we're all going to be making for you.